ever felt bad because you don't have a private jet? Yeah, life is so hard without one. You want to go to the store and instead of flying there in a luxury jet, you walk. Tragic. Meanwhile, some billionaires take private jets for flights shorter than your morning commute. But maybe being poor isn't that bad, because private jets are one of the most polluting ways to travel. Private jets are often seen as a symbol of success, luxury, freedom, status. Social media make them look glamorous. Celebrities stepping onto private planes, influencers filming themselves inside luxury cabins, millionaires talking about saving time. And because of that, a lot of people start seeing private jets as something aspirational. But almost nobody talks about the environmental cost behind them. And if you don't own one, that's actually a good thing. Let's talk about why. First, we need to understand how private jets work. Unlike commercial airplanes, private jets usually carry few people. Sometimes just one person, two person, maybe five or six, but the plane still burns a massive amount of fuel. That means the pollution per person becomes extremely high. A commercial airplane spreads emissions across hundreds of people, a private jet spreads them across almost nobody. And that changes everything. Now, here's where things get really shocking. Some private jet flights are incredibly short. We're talking about flights that last less than an hour, sometimes less than 30 minutes. Flights that could often be replaced by trains or cars. Yet these planes still burn huge amounts of jet fuel for takeoff and landing, which are actually the most fuel-intensive parts of flying. So even a short luxury flight can create an enormous carbon footprint. And when people hear carbon footprint, it can sound abstract. But let's simplify it. Carbon dioxide, CO2, is one of the main greenhouse gases driving climate change. The more fossil fuels we burn, the more CO2 enters the atmosphere. Planes burn aviation fuel, private jets burn a lot of it. And because they carry so few people, the emissions per person becomes very high compared to almost any other form of transport. Some studies found that a single private jet passenger can produce many times more emissions than someone flying commercial. In some cases, one luxury flight can create more emissions per person than someone in some countries produced in an entire year. Think about that for a second. One trip, one person, one massive environmental impact. Now, does this mean airplanes are the only problem? No. Climate change is much bigger than just private jets. Industries, fossil fuels, deforestation, mass consumption, all of these contribute. But private jet became a symbol of something important. Extreme emissions for convenience and luxury. That's why people criticize them so heavily, because they represent inequality in environmental impact. A small number of people creating a massive amount of pollution. And this is where the conversations gets uncomfortable, because many celebrities and billionaires publicly talk about sustainability, while also flying private constantly. People notice the contradiction. How can someone promote environmental awareness while taking flights that produce huge emissions for short distances? The question started huge debates online, especially when flight tracking accounts began posting celebrity jets routes publicly. People were shocked by how short some flights were, and suddenly private jets stopped looking glamorous to many people and started looking wasteful. But let's also be fair and realistic. Private jets do have practical uses in some situations. Emergency medical transport, disaster response, travel to places without commercial access. The issue is not every single private flight. The issue is excessive and unnecessary use, especially when alternatives exist. Now here's something important. This video is not about blaming random people for climate change. A lot of environmental messaging makes ordinary people feel guilty for everything. Using a straw, driving to work, buying normal things. Meanwhile, massive industries and luxury consumption create enormous emissions at a completely different scale. That doesn't mean individual choices don't matter, but it does mean we should understand the scale of different problems. And private jets are a perfect example of high emissions concentrated among very few people. So what's the alternative? The answer is not never travel again. Travel is important. Exploring the world matters, connecting people matters, but the goal is smarter transportation. Commercial flights instead of private jets when impossible, for us is not a problem. High-speed rail, public transport, cleaner energy, better technology. And honestly, sometimes simply asking, do we really need this fly? Because sustainability is not about perfection. It's about awareness. And awareness changed behavior. For years, luxury was associated with access. Bigger cars, bigger houses, private planes. Maybe the future of status isn't consuming more, but wasting less. And here's the ironic part. A lot of people feel bad because they can afford luxury lifestyles online, private jets included. But environmentally speaking, not having one is actually better for the planet. So the next time social media makes you feel like you're missing out, remember this. Some of the most glamorous lifestyles online also come with enormous environmental costs people rarely talk about. At the end of the day, private jets are not just about transportation, but they became a symbol of bigger issue. How convenience, status, and luxury can sometimes conflict with sustainability. And conversations like this matter because climate change is not only about technology, it's about culture. How we admire, how we normalize, what we consider successful. So wipe away your tears because not having a private jet is not a bad thing for the planet. It's probably one of the best things. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think private jets should be more regulated because of pollution? Or do you think people should be free to use them however they want? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and maybe once my editor gets paid. See you in the next video.